Mount Hope Cemetery, located in Rochester, New York. A gathering of members of the community, not for a service, but for an exploration of the final resting place for U.S. colored troops who served in the Civil War.
Our landmark is the monument, and the first grave we're going to is 3 rows back, almost in the center. So this is 1, 2. I was a 2-year-old baby. I was a good-looking baby too. You know what I mean? Had big cheeks. You know what I mean? And I would soil my diapers every once in a while.
Dr. David A. Anderson Sankofa has been educating and entertaining young and old about African American history for decades. Whether capturing history with his camera, keeping history alive through the spoken word, through recreations on the stage, or through literature, his efforts to teach us how to appreciate and respect our ancestors is a lifelong passion. David A. Anderson was born in Cincinnati, Ohio on April 28, 1930.
Good vibes in the neighborhood. In Cincinnati, it was a strong German population, and if you go, I believe it was east from my house, you come to a very wide boulevard divided by a median, and that used to be a canal, and once you got over to the other side, you had crossed the Rhine because you were in the German part of town. And you went to 6th District School, and most of the teachers that I recall had these German sounding names. All the teachers wore hairnets and smocks. And they, of course, this was a white faculty, and my mother and I and the other African American children were polite in their interaction with the teachers, and it was reciprocated.
David was a very special child. After several unsuccessful attempts, his birth was considered a miracle. As an only child, his parents nurtured him, passed along family history and lore, and taught him valuable and enduring life lessons.
Very much into racial pride. He was born in Alabama and had several scrapes that could have taken him out of the business, so he was always advising me about watching it and not becoming overly fond of people until I really got to know them. He would show me where and how to get to the destination I needed to go. For example, I'd be sent to the post office sometime for stamps, and there was a certain route I was to follow. That was the safest route. There came a time in my adulthood when he was visiting us from Cincinnati to see his grandchildren, and he would sit on this couch with his back to the window, and it was the lower level of the house. And on this particular day, he would look back over his shoulder. Well, I guess y'all gonna have some rain by morning. You know, Daddy? And he'd run it down. And eventually he told me that his mother would go out at night and look into the heavens and somehow come up with a weather forecast. My mother was hardworking. She was a disciplinarian generally. She insisted that I be home at a certain time and all of that. She had a number of illnesses throughout our life together, but she was a hardy soul, and when at last she got too feeble to take care of herself, we brought her to Rochester, and she spent her last days with us. And that was when she gave me the other part of the story about her grandfather. Her grandfather was, she was born in 1906, and her grandfather left Alabama, left the home where he was staying with his son and daughter-in-law and grandbaby, left the home saying he was going to Dayton to the old soldiers' home. And I said, well, Dayton what, Mama? I don't know. Dayton, Ohio, Mama? I don't know. Dayton, Kentucky, Mama? I don't know. Dayton, Tennessee, Mama? Boy, I told you, I don't know. Like, get on out of here. Well, it bothered me because she didn't know him. She could tell me so little about him. And to shorten the story, eventually, through the National Archives, Sam Bibb, Private, Company H, 17th United States Colored Troops, and the old soldier's home he had left for was Dayton, Ohio, and I found his grave there. Gave a picture to my mother before she passed. Dayton was 54 miles from where I was born in Cincinnati. But all that time we didn't know that. And when I laid the picture on her bed, she smiled and said, "You're a good boy." And that's the last fond memory I have of my mother.
David graduated from the High School of Graphic Arts and Printing with honors in 1948. He enlisted in the Air Force and went through basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas.
Eventually, my bid for technical school did materialize, and I was sent to Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, Colorado, where I trained in photography. A few months after I got out, the Korean War got out.
Troops push on in the cautious advance against the communists.
And I was shipped to Okinawa to be a part of the support for the B-29 bombers, which were daily dropping tons of bombs on North Korea. Our duty was to meet the returning airplanes at the flight line, pick up these cans of film being 9.5 inches wide, rolls 400 feet rolls, and rush them back to our labs, process the film, make prints, and then study or compare what was on the pictures to what they had written on the logs to confirm, or hopefully confirm, what the crew said they were doing. And there were 9 cameras on every airplane, so it was a rush grind every day to do that work. But it was effective because we never had any complaints from the crews.
After a successful military career from 1948 through 1954, he decided to further his studies in photography. David moved to Rochester in 1956 and entered the Rochester Institute of Technology.
I spent 4 years at RIT, never got into dorms. They didn't have a place for Negroes in the dorms. They didn't even recognize or have a veterans organization at RIT at that time. There were some friendships among my classmates. In that graduating class, all of them had jobs when they got out. I was the only one that didn't. But those first years in Rochester, as far as RIT was concerned, were unforgettably negative. Compensation was living in community allowed me to get to know people who are, even today, those that remain, and I are very fast friends.
David immediately got involved in the civil rights movement in Rochester. He worked on the successful Connie Mitchell campaign in 1961.
I had met Walter Cooper, Dr. Walter Cooper. He was presenting at Lewis Street Center, and I stepped in there that day, and afterwards he took me aside and we had conversation. And so probably he was facilitated the meeting with Connie and John Mitchell, because he would be there, Dr. William Knox, and several others and we would discuss issues and work out strategies, and sometimes we would win, sometimes we wouldn't win, but we had a strong organization, multi-age people working to make things better, and much of what would eventually happen as improvements in our lot came with that group.
While working on his master's degree at Syracuse University, he taught reading and photography to young people. He commuted back and forth to Rochester during this time and stayed involved in the community. Recognizing his abilities as a leader, Dr. Walter Cooper urged David to become Associate Executive Director of Action for a Better Community in early 1965. By 1967, David became Deputy Executive Director of the Urban League of Rochester. While at the Urban League, he helped bring awareness to the dangers of lead paint poisoning in the inner city. David became known as an effective communicator. He was a natural at talking and telling engaging stories.
From time to time, I would get invited into a classroom to say something, and there might be a story that was coming out of me that I didn't know I had, and it was through that kind of persuasion that eventually I pulled a group together, and we decided we would call ourselves Black Storyteller League of Rochester.
David was just the kind of person that would just get you to do things. He would inspire you. I went to a Kwanzaa performance, and I just, because I had celebrated Kwanzaa, and just talking to David, next thing I knew, I was on the Kwanzaa coordinating committee. He was that motivational. The same thing with Aquaba, the Heritage Associate.
We do tours for youth, for children, for adults. We did presentations for reunions, for churches, for colleges, and basically what we do is bring the history of Rochester's African American pioneers to life.
Look at these families enjoying this beautiful statue of my father and Susan B. Anthony having tea. Why, Susan B. Anthony and I had tea at my house just last week.
Dr. Anderson, all of his work is always centered around home, heart, and community. So when you look at the programs that he's been involved in some aspect or another, it touches one of those areas or all of those areas.
We are standing at 301 Adams Street, where once was a multi-storied two-family home purchased in 1935, I believe, by Bessie and James Ham.
Now, David is a historian. And what David's real role has been is to lift up stories of people who have been obscured and forgotten about, people of color.
Let it shine. In 1964, Fannie Lou and other members of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party.
These organizations kind of grew out from each other, and a lot of the same people participated, but it was really David's energy and drive and passion that got these organizations going. I mean, he was the kind of person who would say, let's do this, and it made you feel like, I want to help you do whatever it is that you want to do.
Some 3.5 million of those descendants of stolen Africans.
Well, I've known Dr. Anderson for quite some time, and it was based upon his work. But to be intimately involved with him was around 2000, when we were both appointed as commissioners of the Rochester Monroe County Freedom Trail Commission. Our job was to uncover and push forward the personalities, the sites, and the events of the 19th century freedom movement here. We had a commission member that was on there, Robert Sneed. He started the Day of Remembrance.
And what we would do is go down to Durand Eastman Park at the lake and remember the ancestors who were lost in the Middle Passage. That was the primary purpose. Remember those ancestors who were lost in the Middle Passage, as well as those who were lost during those days of slavery.
Our fathers and mothers came here, lived, loved, struggled, and built here. At this place, their love and labor rose like the sun and gave strength and meaning to the day. For them, then, who gave so much, we give in return. On this same soil, we will sow our seed and build and move in unity and strength.
I've worked with Dr. Anderson on a number of projects. The major project, of course, is when he plays a role in our program, Walk the Walk, Encounters with Rochester's African American Ancestors. It's a program that we've been doing for 20 years, bringing to over 1,500 school children every year in the Rochester area.
This is the soldier's cap. They call it a kepi, and wore during the Civil War. Yeah, I was a soldier. It's a hard time getting to be a soldier, but I was a soldier during that time, see. My name is George Brown, and I am
through these kind of creative programs, this is the way that Dr. Anderson has really educated this community in so many ways about our history and culture.
He will always be remembered in my mind because he would never let me forget that that the school number 12 and a library over there was actually, part of Frederick Douglass's farm.
So effectively today, the Highland Branch Library will be known as the Frederick Douglass Community Library.
A struggling community needs to know from whence it came.
Ferdinand Cunningham was a Civil War soldier who came to Rochester after the war, and he was one of the men, and there was one woman who helped to create the Frederick Douglass Monument that's over in Highland Park.
The United States colored troops were the margin of Union victory.
The purpose was to educate the public, and that's everybody, not just African Americans, to the plight of the colored troop when we got the opportunity to fight.
The spirit that kept our folks who were on the boats, who decided to live rather than jump in the ocean, who decided to live rather than starve to death, who decided this story has to be told. And by deciding that they lived long enough to pass it on, just like Mama told me about her grandfather.